Hello YouTubers and welcome to another episode of the vlogs. As you can tell, we're not at Leander Club, we're here at my house. It's a beautiful day and it's been a beautiful weekend. The weather has really started to get into summertime. Lovely water behind us, lovely, a little bit cloudy but not too bad, and of course the planes going overhead. So today we're just going to have a little bit of a chat. Maybe I'll put some rowing footage over the top at certain points, but today is about a few things, probably as you can tell from the title. Rowing after final trials, what goes on, and what it's like after sort of a big race. So we'll start with what it's like after a big race. So it always happens when you go into a big race, you spend a lot of time preparing for it. You see, you're building up to it. You have your taper very close to the end, the big race. You have all of that prep. So say you've training the whole winter for the big race, and then you do the big race, and then after it, it's a sudden lull. Especially so for us, we have a little bit of relaxing time, a little bit of time off, not a lot, just a day, and then it goes from go, 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 and then down to nothing. And then you kind of have to embrace that time because you know it's going to pick back up again. So it's a little bit of like a mental shock, and it happens especially like going up to trials. It's not a big, or after trials like now, it's not a huge thing, but coming up for say the next summer races, and then especially after your last race of the year, it's a big drop off, a big fall off of excitement. You're no longer with your friends every day for that, so a little bit of time training. You've no longer got that structure that you've had, that you've really went for every day. So every day you show up, you get told what to do, you get told when to eat, what you're doing for training. But that's coming up at the end of the summer. But right now, I had a little bit of that yesterday, where you finish the big trials. This is Tuesday, but yesterday on Monday I was okay, I'm done with trials, and then you have to like reassess and go to the next target kind of thing. So it takes you a little bit of time to sit back and then go for it. So that's kind of what it's like after a big thing, after you've reached after you've attended the big event. It's kind of like a mental shake, but I guess it's actually really big when it's the last thing of the season, especially when you've built up the whole season for it. So that's kind of like a post-Henley, post-World Championships, post-World Cup, or whatever regatta or races that you guys are doing. And so what now for me, post-trials, post-GB rowing final trials. So as the planes fly over once more, so what happens now? So Robson and I came 13th. We won our C final. A lot of people have been asking, what are you doing now? Like, what happens now? Are you back on the team? Are you doing all that? And also, a lot of people were asking about comparing times and saying, well, your time was faster than this person, and therefore you're faster than them. Unfortunately, that's not how rowing works. The conditions literally can change in 5 minutes and can make a race very, very different. A race can have hugely faster times or hugely slower times depending on the people in the race itself, whether you're pushed the entire way, whether you're not pushed the entire way, and it can all depend on who is in that race. And that can affect the time, let alone the conditions itself. So you can't really compare times across the races to say, okay, you're faster or you're faster, but you can compare the times and say, okay, you're in that ballpark. But then when you would be side by side with the people that you're comparing to, it could be a completely different story. I'm not saying it could be a bad thing or a good thing, but it's not necessarily the exact same. So we ended up doing a 640, I think it was a 643 or 644 in our C final, and the winners were anything from 635 to 6. When the A and B final went anything from 635 to 6 55, I think. Just the A and B finals. So we're in the mix there, but obviously there's still some things to work on and still some improvements to be had. And the positioning that we were in, 13th, means that there's 12 people ahead of us, obviously, and so, or 12 pairs ahead of us, and so that means that for me, I had a chat with the coaches. I've actually had a chat with coaches before about what goes on, and so I pretty much needed to do significantly better to get back onto the team, and I had to probably close to that was probably top 2, top 3 in trials to get even a look back to do testing and get back in the team, because one of the things is you're the people training on the GB rowing team are training on there for a while. The coaches know and what each athlete's been doing over that period of time, and the coaches know that, okay, this person's been training at the training centre for X amount of time, and you can't really come in and just have one good performance and then knock that person out. You have to have a lot of consistent performances to be able to push someone out of the team. And that's what George and Harry managed to do. I don't know what they're doing now, but they've managed to do a lot of consistent results throughout this season, throughout last season, and so hopefully they get some sort of invite. But for Robson and I, we didn't perform well enough for that. And so what does that mean for me? It means training at Leander still, which is awesome. I really enjoy training at Leander. The atmosphere is awesome, the coaches are awesome, and it's just down the road as well. The food really easily. Food is just there as well, so it makes training and getting better really easy. So that is something I'm looking at. But also it means that my funding, so for a lot of you that don't know, I've been funded through the lottery funding, through GB rowing team funding, since 2017 when I was on the team, and then I was lucky enough to keep that going because of surgery, etc., and through the coaches who see my potential. But now that it's been long enough that they're saying, okay, you're not going to be back on the team now, so that means your funding has to reduce, and unfortunately it is going to zero. So looking at other avenues of revenue so I can keep rowing in general. Obviously I don't want to stop, but obviously if I can't pay rent, if I can't pay my way through life, then I can't row. So I basically need to find other ways to earn some money, and obviously YouTube helps, Instagram helps, and the Yam Squad merch helps a lot as well. But I'm looking at other things where I can still focus 95+% of my time on rowing, or my energy on rowing, and still be able to earn money. So that is a bit of a kick. It's just it's frustrating because it adds another stress, and I'm obviously really fortunate to have the funding for so long. It just takes away that, okay, how am I going to pay for next month's rent kind of thing. And obviously a lot of people struggle with that as well, and some people do tutoring, some people do other jobs throughout the afternoons, but I want to see, I obviously have to go out and look and see what fits into the schedule of rowing and see what I can do. But if you have any ideas about that, let me know in the comments below. I've got a couple of things out there as some work gets done back behind me, but I've got a couple of ideas, a couple of things that I can do to kind of earn some money and get things going in that regard. And we'll see if that'll involve sort of YouTube, Instagram stuff, or it'll be completely separate. But for now, going forward in the rowing career, the rowing path, it's all about Henley. And so Henley will most likely be the big thing for me and for the guys at the club now. And that's the end of June, start of July. And so not long to go now, so we'll have a couple of races before then, which includes a race in Duisburg in, I think that's 2 weeks, but before that we have seat racing to do next week to establish a ranking at Leander Club. So we get the ranking established, and then we get so the boat set and then the coaches decide how the performances of the boats, and then select the boats on said performances. So the excitement doesn't stop. We've had trials this weekend, next week seat racing, and then I think it's the week after that or the weekend after that we're racing in Duisburg for and that's I've never been there before. It's on the same weekend as Ghent Regatta, and supposedly it is a very big regatta with some very competitive crews there, so it'll be good to have some sweet international racing. Obviously I'll be taking the camera with me and vlogging as much as I can. And speaking of taking the camera, this camera I've been having, if you remember back in the vlogs, there was a lot of sound issues, so that's been getting repaired, and then this is a rental camera, so I'm putting that back today, but unfortunately the repair's taking too long, so the rental has stopped. I need to give the camera back, and so I'll be switching to other cameras until I can get the camera brought back to me. So hopefully that shouldn't be too soon. I'm just waiting on a couple of forms to be filled in, but that shouldn't affect much of the vlogs. I'll be using my other cameras, my phone, etc. to do the speaking pieces like this. But today is obviously a very different episode to normal. Just a little bit of a sit down chat, a little bit more serious, just to let you guys know what's going on, because I had so many questions about what is going on now. So a little bit of a recap. Joining the team is looking less and less likely, just due to, as time goes on towards Tokyo 2020, the Olympic Games, it is more and more difficult to get onto the team. Obviously, never say never, and there's still opportunities to get back on the team, and like I said, you have to be very, very consistent, and there's only so many events you can be consistent in as the time period gets shorter and shorter. So obviously going to give it my all and see where that takes me, but right now the aim is Henley Royal Regatta, and then just kind of seeing what happens after that. Maybe go on some little adventures after that for a little bit of a break, but that's post rowing. Right now we have seat racing, Duisburg Regatta, a couple of regattas, and then obviously Henley Royal Regatta as well. So Yam Squad, that will be it for today's video. Just a little bit of a chat. Let me know in the comments below what you think of said chat. I might, like I said, still trying out different forms of video. I want to get a video similar to the chatting over some rowing footage for maybe once a week, twice a week, and maybe I'll do this kind of chat once a week. If you like it, let me know in the comments below if you do, or if you have any other ideas. And like I said as well, any other ideas, whether it's sponsor ideas, whether it's like earning money ideas, so I can keep on rowing and spending as little amount of time outside of the sort of focusing on rowing as possible. But obviously that's can be quite difficult, and obviously it's not just as easy as that sometimes. But that is a situation I'm in. You have to use the cards that you are dealt with, and sometimes it is good to be pushed, and using that to motivate yourself as well. So as always, Yam Squad, remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this day off, and then we're going to get back to training tomorrow and see what all the other guys are up to, and have a good one.